हे गाइस, स्वागत है आप सबको मेरे चैनल सुनो कहानी पे, जहां हम पढ़ रहे थे वंस अपॉन अ कर्फ्यू बाय सृष्टि चौधरी। इनकी एक दूसरी बुक है लल्लन स्वीट्स, जो कि मैंने ऑलरेडी अपलोड कर रखी है। आप जाके देख सकते हैं, सुन सकते हैं। और ये मैं इनकी सेकंड बुक पढ़ने जा रही हूँ। तो चलिए शुरू करते हैं। डियर रजत, 25 सितंबर 1974। Thank you for your letter. Happy to know you have adjusted well. The food problem can be easily solved if you learn to cook a little. Moreover, it will be a good practice for the future. Haha. The other day I made a joke about Govinda Bhai when he gobbled up 3 bananas in a minute. After he finished, he said, "Godness, I am such a monkey." And then I said, "Yes, and you just finished 3 bananas so quickly." He did not get it all. That's a pitiable sense of humor. You know that Sasi uncle suggested me for the spokesperson of a kind of education for girls campaign. I think it should be interesting, and I have always wanted to do something to bring about change. Good that you are away from all the mess here. Strikes and protests everywhere all the time. Although I am enjoying the drama. Keep me updated. Love, Indu. She watched the other cars pass by as she sat in her own with Natty patiently behind the wheel as usual. She had had a long conversation with her father this morning about the library at number 7. Though Govinda Bhai was still miffed at not being allowed to use a flat half owned by his wife, her father was coming around to it for a completely different reason. It also looked good on the whole family, he said, with your Beti Hi Jaan Hai campaign, especially because we have 2 daughters. It really draws the focus to the good things we do. Unlike those magazines, people always trying to write ill about us. It's not you that these articles personally pointed. They are talking about the government. Indu said, "Don't take it to the heart, Daddy. It's not your fault. Any finger raised at the government is a finger raised at us." Her father said, shakily his head. "Of course, there is a division of responsibility, but I'm one of the chief advisor to the PM." She nodded sympathetically, but was glad her father now approved of the plan and hoped fervently that the whole mess with Govinda Bhai would be sorted out soon as well. She tried to think of how she would explain to Rajat in the letter why she wanted to start the library, but decided she would elaborate it in her next correspondence in her own head. It was quite clear the sky today was cloudy and the sun hid behind the white fluff in the sky. She imagined how the library would look on such a day. In her mind, a cold, gentle breeze would drive away the heat that day, and the windows would be open so you could breathe in the air. The wind would be delicious and would ruffle the corners of the pages, so one would keep a finger or two at the edge. Feel the rustle of the paper beneath their skin. In one of the rooms, one would hear the music because there would be a record playing in the morning and evenings. There would be a dedicated news hour so that one could be informed about what was happening in the country, so nobody could say women did not know anything about politics, that they could not understand economics. There would be a few copies of a newspaper delivered every morning and displayed so prominently that one would naturally pick it up, and not just to read what was screamed out in bold letters but also talk about it with each other to understand that there were things that had not been reported. The books that Dadiji had left behind would be available to everyone. One might read some good fiction, revolve in decent famous lives, escape from the monotony and demands of the husband and the child. One might read some history so that when it is said, "This is not the way it's done, this is not the way of our life," one could have an answer ready. Most importantly, one might sit and indulge herself with a magazine or two, idle the time away in beauty tips and little jokes, day drama a while, and find some time to think about irrelevant things, to dream of holidays that may never be, to think about another life. In the winters, the cold rooms would be bathed in sunshine so that all women may sit together, selling peanuts, peeling oranges, and building bonds. One might find strength in his refugee and think that if nothing else, they have some time in the day to lose themselves, find a willing ear. One might find a room for herself. Since it was another pleasant day, Indu decided to search for him first on the terrace rather than indoors. The walls had been muddied and neglected by a time, overlooking the growing city center, which was lined by treeless and proud in the rain, interspersed with parked cars and people on the road. Waiters dressed in the classic white uniform with Nehru topies bustled about, serving the fully quality of guests seated at tables. Young students finishing college homework, on their lunch breaks, mostly in two and threes. A couple of large group, groups. She saw him sitting in the corner in clean cut trousers and a half sleeve shirt buttoned on the top, stroking the side of his face where the stubble had grown thicker, right hand holding a cigarette to the mouth. Indu walked towards him with a measured strides, her dupatta trailing in the breeze, arms swinging slightly, her lips pouted slightly as she walked up to him. Noticing her, he immediately stubbed out his cigarette in the ashtray and got up from his chair. This time he remembered he did not offer her his hand. Hello, Indu, he said, and Indu noticed how he had not attached the G at the end, how he addressed her in intimacy. She had hello and gave a non committal nod, sitting on the chair that he had pulled out for her. They sat opposite each other as before. He looked straight at her without hesitation. She averted her gaze, folding her arms in front of her, looking around the terrace in interest. I used to come here a lot while in college, she mused. I still come here a lot, replied Rana, his arms resting on the edge of the table, leaning towards her. Tell me, what would you like to have? Nothing, thank you. He raised his eyebrow at her, but did not insist and ordered a coffee for himself. She stared at him as he lighted another cigarette. He noticed her looking at him. Do you mind? He asked, holding up the cigarette lighter and the cigarette, and Indu shook her head in dismissal. So, Mr. Rana, she said, adding the Mr. to re-establish the distance he had sought to dissolve. What is it you want? Rana looked at her and smiled. The question is not what I want. The question is, what do you want? What do you mean? Mrs. Bala called me and said that you had a very specific interest in meeting me, and it is only on her insistence that I am here. Yes, but I am here to do whatever you want. So really, this is about what you want from me. Indu narrowed her eyes and gave him a long stare before replying. Please explain, what do you mean clearly? I have no patience for guesswork. He held up his hands in surrender and then put them on the table. Okay. You said that you wanted to open a library for girls, right? I want to help you do it. She looked at him confused. Why? It's a noble cause. I would be glad to be a part of it. Oh, sure, Indu scoffed. I don't think you believe in it. What? Why not? What's not to believe in? Education, women's empowerment, I am all for it. You don't sound very serious about it. Well, maybe I don't know all the details yet, but I still like the basic plan, and I am sure you can do with some help. Everyone can do with some help, and I have seen you on the poster. Beti hi jaan hai, beti hi jaan hai. Nice spreads. Indu stared at him for the first time, returning his audacious gaze. She noticed his chiseled face, the edges of his beard that were not very closely trimmed and grow naturally. His oval eyes had tints of light brown, and his hair was longer on the sides. Even his hairstyle was audacious. Indu could not help thinking he had the kind of face that looked grumpy, except when he smiled. He raised his eyebrows at her, and Indu continued to glare at him. Very funny, she replied coldly. How many people have you helped educate, huh? None. And that's why I want to join you. What can you do for me? She asked him. Whatever you would like. For example, what? She asked him again with emphasis. I can crack some jokes to try and make you laugh. You seem to need it. Indu continued staring at him. Oh, I'm sorry, I haven't set up a library before, but I'm sure there is a lot of work acquiring the books, setting up the place, advertising your library, whatever you need. Indu wanted a laugh but held herself back, pursing her lips to restrain herself. I cannot pay you, she said flatly. I don't want to be paid. What's in it for you then? The pleasure of your company. Indu noticed the lack of hesitation in his answer and gave him a cold stare. You sound exactly like Ford when I offered to do something for him. What's in it for you? He imitated a sing song voice. When she did not laugh, he put his hands up. All right, I'm not going to lie. I know that your father is a well connected lawyer, and I would not mind being in his good graces for your job. If you mind me useful, you could recommended me. Indu sat back in her chair and crossed one leg over the other. Okay, I want a coffee too, she said. Rana looked at her, bemused, and then signaled to one of the waiters to bring another coffee. He then looked at Indu expectantly, waiting for her to explain what. She simply sat there staring at him. Have you watched it yet? He finally asked, pointing a finger at something behind Indu, a huge poster outside Regal Cinema which they could see from where they were sitting. Indu turned in her chair and saw a poster of Rajesh Khanna and Mumtaz. Aapki Kasam. It had been released a while ago, but she still had not found the time to watch it and felt ashamed. No, I am dying to watch it. I think it will be the best one of this year, don't to be sure. Rajesh Khanna has a few more coming this year. Rajesh Khanna is my absolute favorite. Indu said, her hands over her heart, her eyes streamy. I think there is no man like him. Rana laughed and then contorted his lips as if in contemplation. People have often told me I resemble him. Indu shot him an exasperated look and he laughed some more. Do you want to watch it? We can go tomorrow or the day after that. No, thank you, Indu said, her voice turning cold again, and sipped her coffee, which had arrived while she had been guessing over Rajesh Khanna. Rana stared at her but looked away when she glanced at him. After a while, she got up, arranging her dupatta and swinging her bag over her shoulders. Thank you for the coffee. I will consider your offer. What? Come on. He got up from his chair as well. I can really be of help. You know, I will be a lawyer soon. Indu just smiled at him. Can I walk you downstairs at least? He asked her. No, that's fine, she told him with a wave of her hand. As she went downstairs, she looked for Natty, leaving Rana gazing at her in jargon. Amita said she would get ready for the wedding with them. I want to wear Mama's Kundan said, the one of she brought last year, and it will be too much trouble to bring it home. Anyway, Govinda wants to be there throughout to help his Sasi uncle. If I go with him, I will be far too tired by the time of the ceremony, she had remarked nonchalantly. Amita was the taller and fairer of the two, with full lips and huge smile that light her face up, contrasting sharply with Indu, whose smile usually remained measured and content. Indu gushed over Amita's sari, which was all pink but without being stringly so, and a light blue border with embellished handwork that made for a beautiful wrap. She watched her sister put her hair up in a teeny beehive and then asked her to do her eyeliner. Do it like you do yours with the wings, Indu insisted, and Amita laughed, asking Indu to shut her eyes. Did you fight with Govinda bhai? Indu asked her sister, her eyes still closed. You figure it out. Of course. What is it? Because of number 7. Yes, I mean, that's just the surface. There are other things too. When Indu did not say anything, Amita went on. Okay, so tell me exactly what you have in your mind for number 7. Indu sat on the seat with a sigh, patting down her sari neatly beneath her. I know it seemed to have come out of the blue, but you know I have some time until Rajat come back. And well, I want to make something of it. I want to open this library just for girls, and I wish you would support me in this. But why a library? And are not you already doing that Betty campaign for which I am just posing and getting clicked? No, I want to make it a place where women can use their time for themselves, a place where you could go every day and nurse a passion, something beyond everyday life. You, of all people, will understand. Indu said to her, you say you want to finish your medicine degree. Are you able to find time at home to study? When Amita did not respond, Indu knew she had her thinking. Think most of the women, Indu said to her, appealing earnestly. They must have a passion, something they want to spend time on, learning, reading. I want to create this place so they can go there every day to spend time with themselves. When Amita did not say anything but seemed to be thinking, Indu continued. It's solitude, it's your place, something which you, of all people, need to desperately. Didi, you are stuck at home all day doing the same work, thinking about the same things, waiting for Govinda Bhai. Amita walked around the room, picking up the earrings from the set of that lay in the velvet case on the dresser. You started studying again, Didi, Indu said, but you always say you never get time, you never get space, that you will be never be able to finish it at this rate. Think, what if you have a place to go to every afternoon after lunch where nobody can disturb you, nobody can ask you what you have made for dinner, nobody tell you to pick out a dress for hours every day just to yourself, studying with other women and discussing things with them? Would not it change a lot? For a while her sister said nothing, Spec put on the jewelry and Indu felt quiet as well. Then they waited for their parents on the sofa in the living room. Indu went out to check on Natty and told him they would be out soon. When she returned, Amita looked Indu in the eye and said, if you want to do this, I am with you. Indu felt a rush of affection of her sister and hugged her. Really, yes. Govinda can find another place. Someone offered their help. You know, I think I should accept the offer. Really? Who? Indu paused before saying, do you remember my debating teacher? Yes. one of Mrs. Bala's favorite university student. She recommended him. Indu didn't know why she lied. He had recommended himself. He seemed capable and he is a lawyer. Her sister nodded nonchalantly and not looking at her. Good, go ahead. Have you told Rajat about it? Indu realized she had still not posted the letter. Yes, she said again. I haven't heard from him yet, but he should be fine with it. He is very busy with his studies, you know. So, will you talk to Govinda Bhai? Amita nodded, but looked grave. I will, but he seems really sad on number 7, Indu. In the car, Amita stared outside the window and Indu knew she was thinking. Indu could not help but remember Amita's wedding picture, for it seemed to be her the happiest picture she had ever seen. She was not alone in the thinking that, for the picture was greatly reproduced and shown to everyone who might have ever known the Narayans. Look at the bride, they all said. Does not the bride look simply radiant? See how her face glows and how beautifully they look together. Amita had her head titled resting on the Govinda's right shoulder, and she smiled her wildest smile, her eyes twinkling. Govinda stood upright, sincere and radiant. He was tall, with a neat moustache and round, shiny face. This picture had probably played a part in cementing the idea that Amita and Govinda were the perfect couple. Indu remembered how they had learned slowly as each month went by that everything was not as rosy as it seemed. They had been trying to conceive for a while now. They had gone to doctor after doctor, and each one suggested something different. Get this test done, and we will give you a prescription, the latest one from Europe, personally, and pineapple juice under the full moon. All the women had insisted that will definitely work. Homeopathic medicine every day of 6 months, but for it to work, tea must be given up. Nothing changed, however, and life remained as it was, underwhelming. As Indu had observed, something else had caught Amita's fancy along the way, though. An old dream. She wanted to be a doctor again. She had given it up in a hurry for the perfect husband, the perfect family, and the perfect life. Amita had realized how quickly that hope had come and gone, how transient that feeling was, and how fragile the threads on which relationships were sustained. She felt that old message again, but quickly realized that for others everything had changed. Is this time the time for you to try and begin a family or to sit in a college classroom reading books? They had asked. Indy knew that as the months passed and nothing seemed to be right in their lives, Amita caught herself thinking about it again and again, and when she could not contain it any longer, she brought it up again. Her husband was not impressed. He did not understand the cause or the need for this new obsession, and neither did his parents. They found it unbecoming in a woman to suddenly want to give precedence to an apparently strange dream over her married life. Studying medicine might require her to live elsewhere, spend long hours buried in books, and have new priorities. Yet Amita could not let the idea go, and despite all this snipping and disapproval, she found a way to study. It was far more difficult to do that she had predicted. While also taking care of the household, there were people to attend to, meals to arrange, elders to take care of. There was household shopping, the garden to maintain, and domestic help to manage, so much that even stealing a couple of hours in the day was a big feat. Add to that all the gossip in the community. The Narayan's older daughter, happily married for 3 years, instead of seeking solution of her infertility, was focusing her energy on a decent dream. What was the meaning of this now? How on earth did it make any sense? Of course, the family was too highly respected to be openly questioned about it, but there were private sneakers, hidden jeers, and whispered taunts. The same people were now at the wedding, giving the sisters patronizing looks. One too headstrong and the other too naive. It was not cool enough yet for an outdoor wedding, and so the ballroom had been chosen. Indu had to concede that Sasi uncle had outdone himself. The expensive chandeliers glittered on the ceiling, shedding hues of golden light on the tables decorated with the rose and lilies in extravagant flourishes. On the table runner, people mined around the hall where dinner was laid out. Sasi uncle stood by his son upon the stage, his chest puffed out proudly, beaming at all the people that had arrived in their finery. Indu looked around, knowing it was a while before the bride arrived. The usual groups had formed quickly. Her father had gone to lounge around with the other man. Her mother had greeted her own friends with whom Indu had lingered for an appropriate amount of time, allowing them to ask her little about her life. She had then slinked away to Anmita, who also sought out Indu. Was Govinda Bhai headed to the bar. Indu needed to speak to her sister. The sisters greeted people around the room as they circled briefly, stopping for whoever they met along the way. Rajat is well, missing India a little bit but enjoying London immensely. Indu would recite the standard answer, no, there is still time, it's a full 2 years. This course with Amita they would approached with more caution, restricting the equation of how Govinda's business was going and if her mother-in-law was better now. Most of these people had also come to Amita's wedding. Indu spotted Govinda Bhai in the distance and turned away. Look at Agarwal's auntie over there, Anita said to her sister. When I came in, she asked me if I would now start working at the government hospital. Said the people camped outside the hospital always took up all the parking spots there, so I must put in a word to ensure a smoother parking system. Typical, Indu said, rolling her eyes. If only there were no cobra protecting their lockers and safely 30 feet under their houses, they could have donated some of the money to the hospital for parking. She so desires. Haha. How do you know? Come up with the cobra. Didn't you hear when the government Didn't you hear when the government threatened a crackdown on defaulters some time ago? They panicked and got a cobra and his charmer to sit guard outside their hordes. Amita sniggered, as if the government could touch them anyway. All they need to do is offer them a piece of it. She is changing everything though. How system works, Indu said. I knew it from the start, Didi. She is not one to take things as they are. Have you seen how quickly banks are cropping up now in every town after nationalization? I mean, I haven't seen it, of course, but I have read it about it. Are you talking about Indira Gandhi? Sasi uncle said to the sisters, coming up from the behind them in their with their fathers, giving them both a one-armed hug. Congratulations again, uncle, Indu said, and both she and Amita smiled. Let us know if we can do something to help you tonight. Of course, my dears, but you don't have to do anything except be the beautiful girls you are, he said, turning to her father. Ajit, your Indra seems to want to follow in the footsteps of Indira Gandhi, huh? It is in her blood, of course, her father said, laughing. What about the Prime Minister then? Sasi uncle asked Indu. What do you think will happen now? Do you mean with all the trouble going on? Indu asked. Yes, I believed in her, Indu said. She has done more for this country than anyone else. She is the future. You have taught her well, Ajit, Sasi uncle said, looking at her father as Indu beamed in response, but not even she can predict the future. Isa, pani pilao. Didi is tired. Get her some water, Sunita told her daughter, who generally trailed her mother around. Isa immediately ran off to bring water and Indu realized that her mother was not home. Indu smiled at Sunita and asked, "Theek ho? Everything okay?" But it's okay. Same old routine. Same old life, Sunita answered as Indu nodded distractedly. There was a chill in the air now, and Indu would have to get her winter's clothes unpacked soon. She was about to ask Sunita when she could do it when Isa handed her a glass of water and smiled. The phone rang and Indu walked over to pick it up. Hello, she said carefully into the receiver. May I speak to Miss Indu Narayan, please? You may. Is that Mr. Rana? Yes. I just wanted to hear how you respond to me saying your name. What? What do you mean? Nothing. Did I call on time? You said you hoped I would not be late. Yes, you did, she said, smiling, looking at the clock on the opposite wall. A little early, actually a couple of minutes earlier, and you would have missed me. Sorry, but I just could not wait. Indu found that his voice sounded deeper on the phone. She forced herself not to stop smiling, for she knew that some people could tell over the phone when the other person was smiling. Summoning her strictest voice, she said, Do I have to remind you that the purpose of this phone call was only work and not idle chatter? I mean the work that I could not wait to begin work. You are the one who is delaying it. Oof, women. We can try to work together on this, she pressed on, but we have a lot to plan. I agree. I think we should meet every day till we have some clear idea of how to go about it. Chalk it out, you know. Yes, but I have to think of where, what all we need. We can meet at my house if you want. Of course not, Indu said sharply and heard him laugh. Where then? Indu did not have an answer. As inappropriate as it would be to meet at his house, it would be even more so to meet at number 7, which remained empty all day long. Or even at her own house. Maybe again at the Indian cafe house. Is that okay for you? As long as you make up your mind about whether or not you want coffee. This time Indu could not suppress her laugh. Okay, after lunch, 2:30. Fine by me, he said briskly. Don't you have classes or anything? Not too many, and the classes that I have are not very important right now. Compared with me, you mean? Indu asked. She heard him chuckle before he said, how important is someone feeling today? I didn't think there was any scope for improvement. The work that I have, mister, I meant the work. Ah, just like the man I meant the work before, he asked her, still laughing. Before she could answer, Indu heard the front door open. She hurriedly told him she would see him later and hung up. Chapter 4. 8. Lets her do something with her time. Occupies her mind. I don't know what mischief this girl will get up to if she has free time on her hands, her mother was saying. It's true, but this changed things. I mean, Govind, I don't know how to explain it to him. Should we talk to them about it? I don't know, her father said in contemplation. Govind has his mind absolutely set on it. It will be create a problem for Amita. Poor Amita, as if she does not have enough problems, but I do not want Indu to have something these 2 years, or every day will be a new surprise. I don't know if I could handle it. Indu waited until she heard the scrape of the chair and the sound of her father's footsteps receding. Sunlight cascaded over a little garden in the front with its charming perimeter of bushes. 3 white chairs sat around a table in the middle of the manicured lawn that morning. Sunita picked up the remnants of last night's celebration, singing Mere Sapno Ki Rani Kab Aayegi Tu to herself, swaying to the beat. With the end of her sari tied around her waist for easy movement, Indu lounged in one of the chairs, enjoying the sun, which had begun to feel nice as the weather became cooler every day. She held a notebook on her thigh, the end of the pen in her mouth, thinking. She shut her eyes, for the sun always made her sleepy. Clouds covered the sky as the day progressed, so that by the time afternoon arrived, Indu found the perfect opportunity to wear her new coat, which Rajat had sent her from London. In the car, Nettie asked her if they were going to meet the young handsome man again. You find him very handsome, do you, Nettie? Indu asked him. How does my opinion matter, madam? He replied with a dramatic sign. For someone who does not think their opinion matter, you sure voice them out loud a lot, Nettie. Nettie acknowledged her reply with a growl of laughter and honked at the bicycle in front of him. Rana was not that bad, Indu had decided, and it could be useful to have him around. He was well spoken and smart enough to get things done, but more importantly, he wanted to do them. He had been pretty honest about why, and Indu would be sure to put in a good word about him if things worked out. Indu walked inside to the usual din at Indian coffee house, assuming he would be inside because it was windy this time. He saw her first and nodded it greeting. Indu raised her eyebrows in acknowledgement, looking away purposely as she walked towards him. He noticed her averted gaze and grinned in response, getting up from his chair when she reached him. She sat down on hers, removed her coat and hung it on the back of her chair, adjusting the dupatta on her shoulder. He was wearing a round neck shirt today and his hair stood straight instead of falling neatly on his forehead. He was still unshaven, so when he smiled, his teeth looked whiter against the dark hair on his face. How are you? He asked, smiling, his eyes looking straight at her. He sat down again with his forearm on the table, leaning towards her. Fine, Indu said, looking away, but it's getting cold and I don't like it. Good things. You have such a fancy coat then, he said, eyeing it with a expression. Why do you need this thick thing? I prefer to wear more than just a thin layer, she said, with a glance at his wit cheater, and he shrugged. Plus, it was a gift. For it was my birthday yesterday, she said to him without narrowed eyes. Really? Why didn't you invite me? She pouted at me. You could wish me, before expecting an invitation like that. Instead of replying, he stared at her, grinning ever more widely. Indu could not believe the audacity of this man. She looked away, flustered by this scrutiny. Scrutiny. What do you want from me then for your birthday? He asked, and how she had to look straight at him. Just for you to stop talking nonsense, she said. Would you prefer it in a poem? I like poetry. Indu ignored him and took out a notebook and pen. Let's start, she said. He stippled his finger and looked at her with his full attention. Your test begins now. How do you suggest we start? She said. In a response, Rana looked at her for a few seconds and then turned to signal to one of the waiters. Indu thought Rana had a lot of nerve when he looked at her cheekily and asked if she wanted coffee. She continued staring at him with her eyebrows raised, and when she did not reply, he turned to the waiter and ordered 2 coffees. Okay, to the topics first then, he said. Where is all the action taking place? She noted it down as she spoke. There is a flat that will be used slowly for the library. What is this flat like? May I see it? In some time, maybe, Indu replied. What are the main things you need here? Indu slapped her hands on the table and leaned forward. I thought I was asking the question. He shook his head. Well, first we need to examine what you want out of this. Only then we will know what we need. I don't know how to explain it exactly, she said. I want it to be a place where women would be able to read, write, study the things they want to, which they cannot accomplish at home because of their other responsibilities. I don't understand that, he said. If someone can take the time out to come here, they could take the same time out at home. You are such a man, Indu said, shaking her head. Do you live with your mother? Fawad does like to act like a mother sometimes, he replied, pouting as if it contemplation. So you don't. But think, when you go to visit her, think of her routine time in the day. And think of what time she is able to spare for herself. I don't know, I guess in the afternoons after lunch or something. But then maybe you need something from her. Or there are extra chores to do. A cupboard to be cleaned, some guests who have come over, rations to be brought. Do you have any siblings? Well, yes, 2 brothers. There you go. One day it's one son, the next day another one. Household chores, kids to raise, to educate, make sure they are not running wild, get them married, grandchildren, neighbors, her husband works. If there is ever a spare moment, it's spent recovering from the exhaustion. Rana kept staring at her but did not say anything, so she went on. But if this effort to spare time was an everyday thing, a part of the routine like everything else, if she come to place each day to read just for the sake of it, if nothing else, or to learn a new language, or tutor someone else, or to work on something she always dreamed of without distraction or household worries, it could be really make life different for her. The coffee had arrived by the time, and Rana sipped on his without replying. Deep in thoughts, Indu was happy to see that he was trying to imagine what she had just described, and so she did not interrupt him. Finally, he put his hands on the table. I think I see what you mean now. It will take me a little more time to realize its significance, but I get your point. So we need to start working on a few basic points, which are, Indu asked, leaning forward again. Let's start from the things we need. Books, different kinds, fiction, language. You are the best judge. Books are expensive, but we will acquire those slowly. We need to catalog these books, get book caves for them. We can build some. The next important point is how we get people to come here. Do you have any idea? Iddu said. My grandmother left me many books which are all lying dusty and neglected in bookcase in the house. I agree that we will need to catalog them. As for getting people to the library, we can always hold events. What kind of events, Rana asked? Something that would attract people, performance, entertainment, talk, discussions. And how do you want it to be? Free or for a membership fee? It has to be free in the beginning. Nobody would pay for something that they don't yet understand, Indu replied. He didn't reply, and Indu looked at him for some time. He seemed smarter than she gave him credit for, and she found herself more respective. So, what's about this you and poetry? She asked him. You fancy yourself a poet now? He grinned at her sudden change of topic, his eyes laughing at her question. Indu noticed that the lines on his face made it crinkle when he smiled, and the that he had to only smile and nod once for you to believe the sincerity of his words. She pushed away these thoughts as she replied, I actually write for a weekly magazine for Adrans. He has a special poetry page for me, he said proudly. Do you also read poetry? Yes, I feel inspired by Ghalib. Ghalib, really? No, Ghalib. You have to say it's like you are drunk. Indu laughed and he joined her. God, your laugh is so abnormal. What do you mean abnormal? Indu asked, suddenly conscious. It increased with every breath, getting bigger and bigger. You could do sound for a horror story. Indu made the meanest face she could muster and said, what about your laugh, huh? You laugh like such a sheep. That made him guffaw again. And he slapped the table laughing. See, Indu said, laughing at the way he laughed, you could hear yourself. People are staring to stare. You know, this morning I heard a song on the radio, Rana said. तुमने मुझे देखा. Do you know that one? Of course, he replied, a puff escaping her lips. I have seen that movie so many times. We used to watch them all together. Who? In college, I mean, we had a screening one day for each week. It was the only day everybody turned up, she said with a laugh. Yeah, it's one of the only times you don't have to think of life and its worries. Wait, he said suddenly, staring at her, straightening himself up from the chair he sat back on. We could start by organizing a screening that will draw people to the library. Library, right? Indu looked at him for a few seconds, realizing that it was actually a good idea. You are not so bad after all, she told him, nodding. Once women turn up, we could tell them about the library, how they can be members, etc. Which movie though? Indu asked. Has to be one of the Rajesh Khanna, obviously, Rana said, laughing as she watched her smile at his name. What are you doing now? Do you want to talk? Do you want to take a walk? A walk? She asked him, taken back. Yes, unless it's too cold for you. Indu considered it for a few seconds and then got up and put on her coat, saying it was fine. The grubby stairs led them out to the road, and the breeze, which had been light earlier, had become stronger. Indu was careful to stay clear of the cars that drove through puddles, for nothing enraged her more than being splashed by dirty water. She buttoned up her coat as the cloudy sky rumbled slightly. Hawkers lined the street around the circle, which was thronged by customers now crowding around the warmth of the food, looking forward to bhel puri, matar kulche, and especially chai. Rana walked ahead and looked back at her, wondering if she would follow him. Indu dug her hands into the pockets of her coat, raised her chin, and looked everywhere but at him, and in a few seconds she spotted Natty standing outside the ambassador watching her. Indu narrowed her eyes and walked towards him, making sure Rana noticed this change of direction and followed her. Good evening, madam, Natty said, blinking innocently. She smiled and said, I will return in some time, please just wait here. Good evening, sir, Natty said, bowing slightly as Rana reached them. Rana looked behind to see who Natty was talking to and then realized it was him. A very good evening, he finally replies, his face showing that he was impressed. If you want, I can bring the car behind wherever you are going, madam, so you would not have to walk all the way back to me, Natty said. Indu smiled dangerously and replied, I think I am fine, Natty. Also, there is some kind of strike on at Janpat, Rana said. You will get stuck if you take the car out to the circle. Natty gave a long dramatic sign and leaned against the car. Someone strikes for sugar, someone else for sale. These problems never end. So I say, eat your samosa and forgot about it. They told for a while. There was a less pressure to say something here and there. They would point out things to each other. Indu saw that he liked to walk with his hands in his pocket and constantly looking around his neck, turning often, drinking in his sides, watching the people who caught his fancy. It started drizzling soon, getting even colder. Ha, are not you regretting your thin jacket now? Indu asked Rana with a smug, fingering her coat. At least I have a hood, but you, he said, laughing, pulling her hair up from the back to indicate the absence of the hood, his fingers brushing her neck. Indu laughed as well, noticing his intimate movement. I like Delhi best in February when the simmal blooms on the trees, Indu said. Rana smiled. I like living here. I don't want to return to Lucknow. Life is good there, of course, but people think of different things. The world seems smaller there, and I want to be able to broaden my life. Indu heard him talk of his life like he could do whatever he wanted go wherever he wanted without obligation. They walked together, and she sometimes felt like bumping her shoulders against, but contained herself last. He began thinking she liked him. When do I see you next? He asked her, the sound of his voice warming her in the rain. Call my house at 11 tomorrow morning, she told him, hoisting her purse up, and maybe you will get a chance to make yourself useful again. He nodded, grinning. I'll think about the things we talked about in the meanwhile, she said. Your laugh? Yes, better change in while you still can, he said. She gave him a scathing look on one last time and walked towards Natty and the investor. In a huff, he held up goodbye. Indu from behind her, his own sheep like laugh still booming in her ears. A few days later, Amita arrived with a bag full of clothes, her face aggrieved. She banged the door shut and walked straight inside, past her mother to what used to be her bedroom. Her mother called out to her and then followed. Indu made her way to the bedroom on hearing the commotion, throwing a quizzical look at her mother. She had never seen Amita fume this way. She paced the room, hands on her waist, and Aisa watched them from afar, too scared to ask her if she wanted any tea or water at this apparently sensitive time. Indu and her mother stared at each other at a loss for words, but they did not have to wait long. Amita seemed to tower over them both as she finally spoke loudly in anger. That man, she said, her voice almost shaking, deserved not a minute of the time that I have given him. What did he say? Her mother asked, immediately moving towards her, placing a hand on her shoulder to pacify her. Amita placed around some more before answering. We had a huge fight. It had been going on for some time. But this morning he said that I wanted him to lead a lonely life. But why? Indu asked. He said that he sought to fill the emptiness in his life by dedicating himself to his work, and that I was trying to prevent him from doing so. What emptiness? How does that even? The emptiness of not having children? Indu stared at her sister, aghast, for it was one of those unspoken things that people might dare to think but never say aloud. He said that he had emptiness in his life because you don't have children, Indu asked her sister, incredulously, as her mother's face turned to stone. He wants to fill that hole by trying to expand his business, Amita said, and that I was actively trying to prevent him from doing so. How? Number 7, Indu's mother said with a sigh. Indu stared at her sister. That I was actively creating hurdles in her life, as if I want this, that I don't want him to succeed because I cannot, that it was my revenge because I don't have the skill or willingness it to take to study medicine. Let me go and give him a piece of my mind. Skill my food, Indu said, flaring up. Her mother told her to calm down. They sat together for some time, and once both Amita and Indu had settled down, they discussed men and their insecurities. Indu insisted that Govinda was trying to make his own incomplete by projecting his problem onto Amita. Her mother, however, advised that they resolve their problem in a more appropriate manner and that fight between a couple were part and parcel of married life. But Amita refused to go back to the man who was quick to blame the slightest hurdle in her life on biological issue. In supported her, which annoyed her mother even more. Amita shook her head. This I cannot forget. I am done. I gave up a lot from him, but I am not going to do it anymore. But will you do? Indu asked her. I will resume studying. सो गाइस अभी ये यहीं पर एंड देते हैं. स्टोरी मुझे बहुत सही लग रही है. सीरियसली मैं आपको ज़रूर रेकमेंड करूँगी कि आप प्लीज़ इसको सुने पढ़ें, क्योंकि मैंने स्क्रीन रिकॉर्डिंग डाल रही हूँ मैं, तो आप मेरे साथ साथ रीड कर सकते हैं. और प्लीज़ कमेंट करें कि आपको क्या पसंद आ रहा है. ठीक है, कौन सी लाइन पसंद आ रही है, बुक कैसी लग रही है आपको लंदन स्विच ज़्यादा अच्छी लगी है या फिर वंस अपॉन अ कर्फ्यू. प्लीज़ डू कमेंट, जिससे कि मुझे पता चलेगा कि क्या लोगों को पसंद आ रहा है और थोड़ी सी मोटिवेशन मिलेगी मुझे. सो थैंक्स फॉर वॉचिंग एंड डोंट फॉरगेट टू लाइक, शेयर एंड कमेंट.